Do you guys remember DMZ? Call of Duty's attempt at an extraction shooter which grabbed everybody by storm and created its own little community. It had extreme potential, but it never really delivered. Now we have Delta Force, and honestly, this to me is kind of feeling like the game DMZ should have been from the beginning. And today I'm breaking down exactly why Delta Force hits where DMZ didn't, with the missions, the teamwork, the maps, the realism, and most importantly that gear fear adrenaline rush that you feel like you should have had in DMZ. For someone who loved DMZ and got their start with DMZ for so long, I really understand how much it means to a lot of people and how good the game was. But in DMZ, the loop was very simple. You drop in, you loot some stuff, you maybe kill a squad, you exfil. You rinse and repeat this until, you've had your fill. Unfortunately, unless you're doing missions, which it very much didn't become a mission-based game after a while, it became a PvP heavy, glorified Warzone side mode. This is where Delta Force flips that on its head. You're not just looting, leaving, and you've got a bunch of useless stuff that's not going to stick around and has no real problem that it's solving in the lobby. You've got real objectives. You're sabotaging, you've got recon, you've got intel gathering. The missions in Delta Force actually drive the action and provide you with a proper reward, not just doing stuff because there's a clock and a timer on it. Everything around feels like a bigger part of an operation, not just a simple loot run. The maps in DMZ were huge and they had a lot of potential, but the problem was that a lot of the space that they have in these massive maps just feel like little fillers. I can't tell you the amount of times, the countless battles and the countless times I ran around in DMZ solo with absolutely nobody in sight and nothing to do because there was no one in these areas. Once the first few teams are killed, there's very little people to run across in DMZ. You've got all your POIs, all your hotspots, and then just absolute miles of nothing in between. In Delta Force maps, they feel alive. The terrain itself changes how you play. There's choke points, there's vantage points, there's hills, there's valleys. You're not just running across an empty space. There's always somebody around another corner. You're fighting the map just as much as the enemy. Teamwork and communication was another huge thing coming from DMZ. In DMZ, teamwork is good, obviously, but it's kind of optional. Half the time you're soloing yourself, especially if you're with randoms. Even if you're with a team, you're very much just running off doing stuff on your own unless you're all very much in a tight-knit spot. Half the time, if you were with randoms, they'd probably rather drive off in an ATV or drive you off a cliff, or a lot of the times I would see teammates just drive people out of bounds just to get sent back to the lobby. Like, there was really no point of going in and trying to have teamwork unless you knew the people you were with. In this sense, it became a bit of a joke and it ruined that tactical sort of play style that a lot of people really felt, loved, and enjoyed and thrived on when DMZ came out. In Delta Force, teamwork makes everything. It is the heart of the game. Roles actually matter. If you don't have comms, you're screwed. They are for survival. If you've got a squad that talks, you live. If you have a squad that doesn't, you can very quickly get wiped, and this is a huge role in that teamwork in Delta Force that DMZ didn't always have. And that's why Delta Force gives you back that tactical gameplay that an extraction shooter like this and like DMZ should really have. The gunfights in DMZ were really good. They were exciting and sometimes they were adrenaline rushing. The fact was that they felt like classic Warzone. You had lots of plates, you had lots of time to react, and you could tank half a magazine before even going down. Now, I understand that Delta Force also has armor and armor tier levels, but in Delta Force, it's so much more tactical with the way that it works. The armor sometimes doesn't make a difference. You can get one single placed shot that can absolutely drop you on your ass. Weapons have weight, handling feels deliberate, and it's not about trying to out heal the bullets and having this health that actually regenerates if you sit in a corner for 10 seconds. It's about not getting hit in the first place. You don't have plates, you have armor repair kits, and if that's gone or you don't have one, you're screwed. You can't just pick up a plate off the ground and keep going. The tactical realism in this game is far beyond that of DMZ. With that being said, you can actually tell people that have come from a military or a police or any sort of enforcement background that do play this game, you can see the way that these things matter with the way that they take on situations. The AI in DMZ, it was kind of inconsistent. One minute they're actual stormtroopers who will hit absolutely nothing, and the next minute they're laser beaming you through smoke from 250 meters away and you don't know why. It was insane, it was severely annoying, and it was overpowered and overused, especially in maps like Vondel where you can walk or run 5 meters away without getting blasted by an entire militia of absolute bots. Now, AI is a bit of a hard thing to get right, and Delta Force isn't quite there. They've got some things they need to work on with their AI, but it's not as bad as DMZ AI was. Now, it doesn't feel like you're fighting proper militia, but it does feel like they have some sort of understanding and sense of what's going on around them. The bosses, they flank, they run around, they throw smoke, they actually have a bit of a strategy when you're fighting them. The bots, not as much, but the bots throw smoke when they see you or if they need to get away or use cover. They demand some sort of actual strategy, not to just get shot and die. You can't always just mindlessly mow through them. One of the biggest things that I've come across between this and one of the biggest differences is the loot between these games. In DMZ, your loot doesn't really matter that much. There's a bunch of stuff that you can't get out with, so if you've got it, it doesn't really matter. Once you exfil, it's gone. When you are in raid, the stuff that you do grab, it's either random shit or you sell it off for cash, or maybe you build a vest, or maybe you make something else with it. And any of the guns that you find on a player just get taken out, put into contraband. Or if you lose it, you can make it for free. You can build these guns for nothing, and that doesn't give any tension, and it doesn't give you a lot of gear fear. Very quickly, the gear fear in DMZ absolutely dissipated, and it made the game just another run-and-gun PvP. Delta Force changed this in a massive way. The loot actually matters. What you're picking up actually matters. You bring it back to your home base, you bring it back to your lobby, you bring it back to your black site, and you use it to craft things that really help. You use it to advance in different departments and get different missions done that actually give you gear and items that you need to progress through the game. You're picking up rare intel. You're picking up items that are worth millions. You can flip your entire playstyle by picking something up that maybe you don't have a safe box space for. Maybe it's too big put into your safe box and you have to carry that with you, and you're carrying around $3 or $4 $5 million item that you don't want to lose. You're now going from charging into buildings like Rambo and the Terminator, and you don't care because you got a gear ticket, or you don't have anything that's overly expensive on you, to creeping around the bushes like Solid Snake. If you die, it's gone. That's actual gear fear. And unfortunately, that's the piece of adrenaline that DMZ never really nailed. It was for a little bit in the beginning, but after you got yourself set up, there was no gear fear. You didn't care. You lose a gun, you come back in, and you've got one back in 10 minutes. Like, it doesn't matter because you had those secured slots back in the lobby. The adrenaline rush that I've felt playing Delta Force is so much greater and so much bigger than that I ever felt in DMZ. The exfils between DMZ and Delta Force are kind of similar, but also kind of different in a lot of ways. The exfils in DMZ kind of felt like a mini battle royale ending. You sprint to the helicopter, you fight whoever's left, and you get out. It's dramatic, but it's a little bit shallow. They didn't have anything that really caused that oh shit factor. And by the end of it, a lot of people were just taking Koshi and glitching out anyway, so it wasn't really a problem. Like, if you missed exfil, you could go to a Koshi entrance and you could glitch the game and get out with all your shit anyway. So it really lacked that adrenaline rush once again. In Delta Force, there is none of that. You don't get to just glitch out and get all your stuff. Like, if you die, you die. If you don't get to extraction, you can't just quickly get something else. There are time limits to this, and it feels like the final leg of your entire operation. You're not just escaping, you're extracting critical assets that you need for stuff out in the lobby, stuff that is not in raid. Exfil is the very payoff to everything you've done in that entire round. At the end of the day, DMZ was where I started and I really fell in love with it, and if they bring out a number 2, which I know they've kind of confirmed, they really need to step up the game. They really need to take into account every single person's feedback and what has actually gone wrong with the current DMZ. It's turned into DMZ, but it's Warzone with extra steps. Delta Force is the tactical extraction shooter that we were all waiting for. It's got the gear fear, it's got the teamwork, it's got missions, it's got everything DMZ promised but never quite delivered on. It's a little bit slow, forced for some people, but that was the same problem that DMZ had with people coming over from Warzone. People would do Warzone Battle Royale, come into DMZ and go, nah, this is crap, it's too slow. And then some people from DMZ came over to Delta Force and did the same thing. The problem was that people didn't want to give Delta Force a chance, and it's not quick enough for them. Also, they say, Delta Force, I have had some of the most intense fights and only got in for 34 seconds before a team has come through and killed us. DMZ was fast enough for a lot of people, and Delta Force is also much faster in the same regard. People still rush spawns and people still rush POIs in order to get the fastest and most combat ready experience possible. Both of these games are on console, PC, and they've both done wonders to every gamer's hearts out here. I hope Call of Duty brings out a new era with DMZ 2.0, and I hope Delta Force continues to grow as fast and as much as it already has, tenfold in the future. And if you guys all made it to the end of this video, I cannot thank you enough. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I appreciate all of you. The channel has grown exponentially lately, and I have no words to say thank you.